a really good friend of mine named Henry Solomon. He just reached out one day and said, "HAIM is looking for a keyboard player. I want to throw your name in the hat." Basically, the rehearsal was basically like my audition. I had to go learn, I feel like 20 songs or something.
I read somewhere that you appeared on Glee, the TV show, at one point. Um,
Wow, man, that's a deep cut. A lot of the music on this record actually were like that. I hadn't played them in years, and only now going back and finding them was like, oh, this would be a cool one to do. I'm always kind of aspiring to reach people that don't typically listen to jazz and kind of hopefully present in a way of like, oh, this is jazz, like I can get into this.
like cool jazz, like
Yeah,
even
I
if you
mean,
don't listen to jazz, you could try this out.
it's all cool to me. Well,
Yeah, yeah,
let
yeah.
me not say all of it, but like
He's a pianist and composer. He was a finalist in the 2023 American Pianist Awards, and he's performed with artists like Joshua Redman, Louis Cole, and HAIM. Paul Cornish, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for coming on.
thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear more about you, your career, and everything, and just even like you beyond the piano, beyond the music, just like as a person.
For sure. We'll see.
Yeah. So, well, like the first thing I wanted to get into, for example, was just like music education or your education in general. It's been like super music focused high school for the performing and visual arts to UCLA, like the Herbie Hancock Institute. Did you always know music was what you wanted to get into?
Um, yes
Or at
and
least the arts in some sense?
yeah, yes and no.
Hmm.
I think early on, I definitely had a deep affinity for music. You know, from when I was 2 years old, I wanted to play drums. And my mom started me on lessons when I was 5. Um, and I think I knew that I loved music, but I guess a lot of along the way, I wasn't really sure if I personally would be capable of doing it professionally and full time. And I feel like kind of along the way, you know, for me personally, I feel like, it was kind of a divine, alignment type of thing, where I felt like, okay, I think I can maybe do this.
Yeah. Is that like a mental thing or just like skills and technique wise you weren't sure if you were able to do it, like when you say you didn't think you were capable of it?
Uh, Honestly, probably both. I think at the time I was feeling like it was a skills and technique thing. Like, maybe I wasn't good enough, but I think that can be a matter of perspective. So I think mental definitely plays into that as well.
Yeah, so because I know some people I know some people who are either in school for music performance, went to school for music performance, and it seems just like you're all in all the time, like constantly practicing everything
Hmm.
like that. So just take me into like the student life in those institutes for music.
Yeah. It's pretty much just as you described. Like, since I went to performing arts middle school and high school, and I was very blessed because I feel like those kind of one, I got to be around, kids my age that were like taking the craft seriously, and just the arts seriously in general. Um, and it also like uh made me realize, the standard. So I think just to even keep up with the students around me, I had to practice a lot and really be invested in the craft. So and
Yeah.
then that prepared me for college of really understanding, you know, how serious I needed to take the craft.
Yeah. Yeah. It's basically a full-time job at that
Right.
point.
No,
And
exactly. Like I feel like it's similar, if I'm allowed to say, like to like athletes, when you kind of hear
yeah,
stories of like college athletes or just athletes in general, how they have to go to class, but then outside of that, they have to constantly um,
Practice.
practice, train, um, diets, try to get good sleep, but
Yeah.
like it's a balancing act.
Yeah. And so if there are other people listening to this in school for music or maybe like recently graduated trying to get a job, what tips or advice would you give to them to kind of strike that balance?
Yeah. Um, just graduating is yeah, that's like it's an interesting time because like you said, now you're kind of relying on just kind of opportunities to hopefully come in to sustain you. Um, I would say just one, definitely just keep working on your craft. My mom used to always tell me, if you're great, people will find you. So I think allowing your work to speak for yourself, because people are always looking, even if you feel like no one sees you. You know, kind of each opportunity you get, just try to make sure you do your best in that situation, and more opportunities will come. That, and two, just going out and meeting people. Um, they talk about networking. I don't think it has to be, you know, a whole
That
thing.
serious.
Yeah, that's serious, where so I think some people you can kind of tell they have an agenda, with going out and, meeting people and immediately trying to like get a gig right there and then. But these things kind of take time. So I think if you prepare well, and you kind of just trust the process and also the work you're putting in, things will start to align along the way.
Yeah. And so going into like your full career now or like playing
Mm.
beyond college and everything, I mentioned some of the people you've performed with and HAIM, one of which is like a group I've started hearing about more and more in recent years. So just tell me about the opportunity to perform with them and just how that came about.
Yeah, that's another example of like not really knowing where, when, or how an opportunity will come, and just trying to be prepared for it. But yeah, actually, a really good friend of mine named Henry Solomon, who I've actually known since high school, and we went to college together. We lived together. He he just reached out one day and said, yo, HAIM is looking for a keyboard player, um, and I want to throw your name in the hat, basically. And yeah, he gave him my info. I don't know if he sent them something of me, or if they just looked me up,
Yeah.
um, which can also be scary. Make sure you have some good, representation of yourself online. You don't have
Yeah,
to
definitely.
be super crazy, with content or anything, but just have a few things that, because that always goes before you, in these situations. But yeah, so um, I like did an interview type of thing, and then came in, and the rehearsal was basically like my audition. Just I had to go learn, like I feel like 20 songs or something, and then just coming in and being ready to basically play the show and
Yeah.
go over them. So yeah, grateful it worked out. It's been some of the best um tour experiences I've ever had.
Did you like know of them before that or know any of the songs that you
Yeah,
were trying to learn? Okay.
no,
Yeah.
of course.
So that probably helps.
Yeah, no, that definitely helps. But it's interesting, like even if you've heard the songs, or and you know them, like the live situations a lot of times can be a completely different thing. Like they're changing
Yeah.
the arrangements. With them, they extended a lot of the forms, so it's kind of, I don't know if it is good to come in knowing some of the songs, but you almost kind of have to like relearn them in a way. So uh
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, and all band artists do like maybe some little changes for a live show to do that. So
Hmm.
it's you got to learn it anyways, whether you think you know it or
Exactly.
not.
Hmm.
Um, and then with Joshua Redmond, you were part of the band on the NPR Tiny Desk concert. Was it like entering such like an iconic space? I feel like some great artists and bands have passed through there.
Man, yeah, surreal. Yeah, I mean, like everybody, I've been a huge fan of Tiny Desk, and uh, as a musician, I've always wanted to get the opportunity to play there. And then for me, getting to play there with one of my heroes, Joshua Redmond, that was like kind of a double, um, surreal moment. So I was just grateful, man. And it was really cool to see where they shoot the Tiny Desk and how the production actually comes together. So yeah, that was just kind of like one of those pinch me moments, and I was just grateful to be a part.
Yeah. Is it like what is the production setup kind of like? Because it seems very simplistic and easy, but I'm sure there's kind of like camera crews or like production people on set there behind it. So I guess into
Yeah.
like what the whole setup was like.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's just you don't realize that it's like an actual office like building in space. There's just like what you don't see is that like that's just like a small corner of like a huge floor of just all like office desk and stuff. So
Yeah.
that was just kind of trippy because like it's really like a tiny desk or like space um
Yeah.
within the huge kind of floor. So there's that, and then you're trying to cram the whole band into this tiny corner, but then you see all these like artifacts from the previous tiny desk. And um yeah, you come in, you basically do the whole set before you record just for their sound check. And I think that
Hmm.
allows the camera crew and the audio crew to kind of get a good sense of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And uh, yeah, and then you do it. You have like maybe 30, 40 people that come in and watch you. And yeah, it's fun. Like I don't know. I thought I was going to be like more nervous. And I was a little bit, but like something about it is just like kind of chill. Like it doesn't seem as crazy
Yeah.
as it looks.
Did you like leave any trinkets or anything behind on the
I
set?
did, I did, I did. I don't know if it's still there, but so when we did that, I was actually coming off my first tour with Joshua Redmond. We had just toured Europe, and
Hmm.
I had the middle of the tour. I bought like this little mini Bluetooth speaker, just like play in the green room and stuff. And then the tiny desk was like right after the tour. That was like the end of the tour. So I just, excuse me,
No problem.
I left the Bluetooth speaker kind of as a, um, just like a
To
memorial.
like connect that in the tour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It was just like this marks like the end of something that was like very kind of special.
Hey heroes, sorry to interrupt that podcast episode, which I hope you are enjoying, but I wanted to tell you about my clothing line, Quest Clothing. Ever since I started really pursuing YouTube and music and all these creative things that I do, I've dreamed about starting this clothing line specifically. I had the name, I had the idea like for years before I started it, and now it's finally here. You can wear clothes like this. I have sweatshirts available, t-shirts, even clothing for like my music with cover arts and lyrics and things like that. It's all super, super cool. And right now is the best way for you guys to support me across everything I do. So be sure to check out the Quest Clothing web store with the link in the description and follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram for updates about collections, discounts, things like that. Anyways, I don't want this self-sponsorship to take too long, so let's get back to the episode.
One of the last like appearances, guest things that I want to get into is I read somewhere that you appeared on Glee, the TV show, at one point. Um,
Wow, man, that's a deep cut.
I had to like double check it because I was reading all these sources and it's like I get like the Herbie Hancock Institute, I get Joshua Redmond. And then only one source mentioned Glee, and I was like, I really hope this is real.
No, wow. That's so funny you found that. Yeah, that was kind of like one of the first um I don't even know what you describe. Like I guess kind of opportunities I got like
Yeah.
when I moved to LA. I want to say it was like my first or second year at USC. They just kind of were doing an open casting call for musicians to to be on the show. Kind of just like in the background, but um yeah, that was just like a
Yeah. So
yeah,
were you just like an uncredited like pianist in background, or what was
pretty
like
much.
the role
Yeah,
basically? Yeah.
that's a whole scene which I never even knew, but yeah, literally when you watch movies or see TV shows and you just see someone like playing in the background, that's like a whole lane of um musician casting,
Yeah.
we call it. It's a funny niche thing, but that was like yeah, that was a cool opportunity to kind of just see that and see that lane, and then also just I'd heard of Glee, of course, but
Yeah.
um it was cool to see kind of how it all like works and comes together.
Yeah. So was that like an audition type of thing, or just kind of putting your name in
Yeah,
and like showing up? Okay.
it was actually an audition. Like yeah, it was a full day of just like they send you these songs, you come in, you go and play, and then you leave, and then they
You hope you get a call.
yeah, you hope you get a call basically, and yeah. But the funny thing is like we didn't actually like play or record like on the show. I think they just want to
Oh,
see
yeah.
actually mimic the part
They
so it looks real on camera.
Yeah, they wanted to make sure you could actually play it, even if it's not
Exactly,
being
exactly.
recorded. They make sure it matches with what is getting
Hmm.
played or what people are hearing. Yeah, that's awesome.
Hmm.
And so, getting into like you solo or you as an artist, you're getting ready to release your debut album this summer. What can listeners kind of expect from it, or what does this album hold, like music wise or style wise?
Yeah, no, great question. Yeah, they can expect like just like a very kind of personal approach that I feel like it's one of those things I feel like my whole life has kind of been leading up to this, and yeah, I don't know if that makes sense other than just like these compositions and even just my style has just been like a result of kind of my own personal um and very kind of introspective like journey through the music this far and everything you kind of mentioned, all of um the opportunities I've had in my career. This is kind of like my first moment stepping out of like, okay, what is your actual thoughts and what is when you put all this together, what does it sound like? So um yeah, I'm just channeling all that through the lens of acoustic piano and jazz trio and yeah, I hopefully it's kind of hopefully people just resonate with it. I've always kind of just loved the format of jazz piano trio, and I feel like I got two other guys that are some incredible artists on their instrument, and we play really well together. Like it's really just three people kind of playing as one. So uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome. And so is that like finished by this point, or where in the
it
process
is.
are you just waiting for release? Yeah. And
Yeah, the cool thing about it is that yeah, I recorded it before I got signed, so I feel like I
Mhm.
really got to like take my time and kind of sit with myself and also my friend Henry Solomon, who I mentioned earlier, he actually produced it and he'd known me, for a long time and he actually knows my music as well. So we kind of got to
Yeah.
get together and really, you know, make what I feel like is an album that I'm really proud of.
Yeah. that starts to get into exactly what my next question was going to be, which is just like the actual like songwriting process or making and recording these songs for the album. What was that like? Was there any kind of routine or formula, or did it just come naturally and you like took your time with it?
No, so yeah, I think the cool thing about me starting this process kind of later in like later for me is just, I'm 28 and but I think since I've been in LA, which was starting 10 years ago, I've been writing music, in like school and I've done some shows. So I've had, 10 years worth of original music that I've just been kind of sitting on. So I think the hardest part was actually just deciding what songs to actually go with. And Henry was really helpful in that. And I went in and made demos like maybe a year before just to kind of hear how each song will kind of translate. So yeah, it was really just songs that I've written in college and just kind of picking the right set of music for this album.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you think any that maybe didn't make the cut or are still like kind of in the vault or on the shelf? Is there ever a chance you could see those like coming out one day, or were they just kind of in the process of getting to where this album is?
Man, I hope so. I hope people can hear them. I'm really bad about that, so we'll see because
Yeah.
I am
No problem.
definitely one of those people that just I'll write something, perform it once, and then just never play it again for years. A lot of the music on this record actually were like that. I hadn't played them in years, and only now going back and finding them was like, oh, this would be a cool one to do. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
I
But
mean, yeah. At least you're playing them. I'm in school for music production right now and want to be a music producer. And I get into like almost the opposite mindset where like, I'll, I can relatively quickly like knock out an instrumental, find an artist, get that. And then once I have like all the pieces together, I become like super perfectionist about it. And I'll be like, okay, I think I'm ready. And then hear like one thing wrong here. And I'm like, no, I got to spend a week fixing this 2 second section and like
mhm,
just bouncing from thing to thing.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, eventually it gets to the point of like, okay, I think this is good enough.
Yeah.
And you just got to get to that point of like releasing it. Like, there have been times that I just had to essentially, like, I mean, we can get into if a record label helps with this, but just giving myself a deadline of like, get it out by this time. And I'm like, okay, now I'm under a deadline. Whatever changes I want to make, feel like I have to make, I have to get done by that point.
Are you a music artist looking to get your music on Spotify, Apple Music, and basically every platform? Then you should check out DistroKid. DistroKid is a music distribution service. It's what I use to get my music out, and I find it really, really helpful. You can set up all the credits for your songs, put in lyrics and even like times lyrics and things like that, and manage all your releases from one account or one dashboard. It is super helpful, and I don't think I would have gotten started with music as early as I did without DistroKid. So if you're interested in any of their plans, which I'll put on the screen here, and yes, that does say $2 a month for music on all platforms that you need things like that. That's $2 a month. I know some of you spend more on coffee each day than $2 a month to get music wherever you want. But anyways, back to the point. If you use my link in the description, you will get 7% off of any of these plans to make it even cheaper. Plus it has so many cool features to help with your music, like pre-save pages, getting it on Instagram and things like that so people can add your music to posts. It is just super, super helpful, and it's what I've used since starting music. Like I said, use the link in the description, check out DistroKid, and get 7% off of any plan you want. Now, back to the episode.
In terms of like the actual signing to Blue Note Records, first of all, congratulations because it's such an
Thank you.
iconic label and everything. But what do you see this like next chapter holding for you, or how do you see it like benefiting your music?
I yeah, I think it's kind of allowing me, the opportunity and space to really just like fully throw myself into my artistry and in music, in career as a creator. Because like you said, most of my career has kind of been helping other people's projects or kind of being in the background, which has
Mhm.
been great. I feel like I've learned so much from that, and I think that's part of the reason why I'm here now because I've been able to kind of take those experiences. Um, but at a certain point, you just kind of got to jump in and do it. So I feel like this is kind of, you know, affording me the opportunity to uh, bring that to the forefront. So yeah, I'm just hoping to, uh, like you said, contribute, kind of put my stamp on, what has been a legendary legacy at Blue Note Records, and also just, um, the jazz music community at large. I feel like I have so many friends and people I looked up to that have contributed to this music for a long time. And so I just hope to kind of be right there with them. And hopefully, I'm always kind of aspiring to reach people that don't typically listen to jazz and kind of hopefully present in a way of like, oh, this is jazz. Like I can get into this.
Yeah, yeah, like cool jazz. Like
Yeah,
even
I
if you
mean,
don't listen to jazz, get in, you could try this out.
exactly. It's all cool to me. Well,
Yeah, yeah,
let
yeah.
me not say all of it, but like I think it gets a bad rap. Like people don't. You talk to people and then you realize they don't really know what it is. They've had one kind of experience with it, sort of, and they in their heads
Yeah.
that's kind of all it is. And based off of that one thing, they kind of decide whether or not they like it or not. So,
But
um,
it's like all these genres where there's so many different like styles or subgenres and
exactly.
things like that. Like there's probably something for you and you're just not trying it out. Like you can't just say I don't like rock or rap because there's so many different types of those that maybe you do like. So I
Yeah,
feel like there's some kind of jazz that maybe you like or could get into.
absolutely. Yeah, I really just hope to like offer experience of just like, you know, just like, here are these things that are happening in life that we're all kind of collectively experiencing, and let's go on this journey together. So uh yeah, I
Mhm.
just hope people resonate with that.
Yeah, awesome. And so you mentioned like taking knowledge from helping other people and like performing as a supporting pianist to now this solo career or solo album. Do you have a preference between those two as to which one you want to do?
I mean, right now I think because I've done so much of the other thing, being a sideman, I just feel uh ready and the time is right to just jump into the solo career, and that's um yeah, I guess I just have all this excitement to kind of get that going. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at right now. But I'm still doing a couple gigs. And I think that's the cool thing about it as well. Like I can really focus on the opportunities, as a sideman that I really want to do. Like I can be a little more selective. So um
Yeah.
now still playing a lot with Joshua Redmond, thankfully, and there are a couple other artists that I'm kind of holding the space for. You know, HAIM being another one if that comes back around, and
Yeah.
uh, I'm also in a band called Thumpasaurus. That's kind of a personal collaborative project with some friends of mine from college. So um, yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Is that like a jazz band or what kind of music does that make?
No, it's actually completely uh left field. So
Okay.
it's a dance punk funk
Awesome.
band. But it's crazy. It's like has visuals and there's a singer and uh it's
How,
really out of the ordinary.
yeah. How did that like form or come up? Did you have like a desire to make that? kind of music, or did you like form the band
No,
first and it just kind of it turned into that?
it kind of turned into that. It started as like a band that would play covers for like
Mhm.
college parties at USC. And we did that for a couple years, and then the lead singer started writing original music, and that kind of just formed out of it. We started writing together, and that's the sound that kind of came out.
Awesome. Yeah. So looking forward, and I know it's kind of a big question or a hard question, so feel free to have different answers or no answer, but what's like the ultimate goal for your career right now? Or if like the band solo career, like if there's one thing to kind of like start really taking off, what do you hope that is?
Um, that's a great question. I really just hope to inspire people,
Hmm.
honestly. I mean, I think if going back to how to make a career as a musician, I think same thing as an artist. Like if you kind of focus on the craft and kind of really honing in on the experience people have when they listen to your music or hear you live, I think everything else will kind of come from that. Um, so and I'm a big believer of like things that are supposed to happen, will happen, and sometimes those are things that aren't planned. So I do have things that kind of in my head of like, oh, that would be cool, but if they don't happen, like
You don't
that's
want to force it.
yeah, you don't want to force it, and also I don't want to it is good to have a specific plan, and I'm grateful that like um, I have a team that's come together that's invested in that. But yeah, for me personally, I really just want to get out there and play music that reaches people and hopefully inspires people. And yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see what happens from
Yeah.
that.
That's awesome. I think that is one of the best things that can happen to really any creative, but like especially for music, because I'm starting to hear stories, or I love hearing stories of artists and bands who like came up making music and they like meet another band or artist who's younger and learn that like they were one of the inspirations or like they're their favorite artists. And like I feel like that moment is probably so cool to like be at even just one piece of like an inspiration that gets someone else into music, or like another pianist who comes along doing records and tiny desk concerts and things like that. It's probably such a good feeling.
Absolutely. No, that's what got me into the music. That's why I'm
Hmm.
here. So I feel like the responsibility is on me to pass that along to other people. So.
Yeah. Do you, from all this experience you have with time and tiny desks, and maybe it's not even one of those, but do you have a live show, performance gig, whatever it might have been? Do you have one like live moment that you think was your favorite, or that just really sticks in your mind?
Yeah, two. I'll give you. One
Hmm.
recently was with Joshua Redman, and we played at the North Sea Jazz Festival in the Netherlands. And that, first of all, that was just like a big festival that I've always wanted to play, and it was kind of similar to like the Tiny Desk thing of where it was just like this is always something I wanted to get to, and the fact that I was doing it with Joshua Redman um, was really special, and it was kind of like one of the last shows of the festival that day, and I met all these people that I've looked up to, and also had a lot of friends that were at the festival, kind of performing for the first time too. So it just kind of felt like one of those culminating moments of just like you
Yeah.
know, um, yeah, just getting to be there
Yeah, that's awesome.
and then the second one was performing with HAIM, um, opening for the Taylor Swift tour. that was just
Mhm.
like it was more so just like to see the magnitude of like Taylor Swift fans
Yeah.
and also seeing her show like in a stadium. I'd never really played in a stadium before. So that was just kind of a crazy moment of like this is a whole nother level of like fame and
Yeah.
production.
That's the level. Like that's literally like basically the top of where you can get
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm never gonna get to see like Michael Jackson or Prince or anybody like that. And
Mhm.
I feel like that's the closest thing I'm really gonna see to like what you know people were experiencing with their superstardom.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I mean even just for that show, was there any aspect of it, whether it's maybe like some nervousness or even just like needing to sound check or do different like setup for it in such a big like arena stadium setup?
Yeah, it's an adjustment because yeah, this the way the sound like travels is just like different from anything you'll ever experience. So
Mhm.
um, I think it's just getting used to the fact that like you're not really gonna hear yourself uh outside of your headphones. Like you will, but it's like you can't rely on what you hear because there's just a big delay 'cause it's just a huge space.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, playing with in-ear headphones and monitors that becomes like more crucial. Um and then yeah, I think also getting used to like the crowd like having like 80,000 people like screaming at you. It's just like that energy is just like you can't really prepare yourself for it.
Yeah. Mhm. And so for a couple more like hypothetical questions to start wrapping things up, if there is an artist or a band that like you want to write a song with, perform with, is there any like dream collaboration you have in that sense?
Yeah, a few.
Hmm. Yeah,
Sure.
feel free to name like a bunch. It doesn't have to just be one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm like, one of the people that comes to mind is Madison Cunningham. Like she's amazing. And who else? Like Bon Iver or something. Kendrick
Mhm.
Lamar. Um,
And you see his halftime performance.
I did.
Yeah.
Uh, it's cool to see like the polarized reactions. Like I feel
Yeah.
like he's good for that. Like you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, uh, no, he would definitely be someone cool to work with.
And are these like jazz style things that you're working on, or like how do you think these collaborations would work out with any of these artists?
Yeah, I would love to see a way to kind of like bring them into my world. I guess just like
Hmm.
finding kind of where you know I know for them, maybe they might have not done, anything like that. I think, Kendrick, of course, has worked with a lot of different types of musicians. But yeah, I think cool things happen when two completely different worlds kind of like come together. So I'd be curious to see what kind of happens if you put us together and we wrote.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And then the other question I had was just in terms of venues. I mean, you have so much different experience from tiny desk to massive stadiums with Taylor Swift. But what's the are there any like bucket list venues that you have of like or festivals as well that you want to play at one day?
Man, I would love to play at the Village Vanguard. It's
Hmm.
kind of a legendary jazz club that um, everybody has played, from John Coltrane to Thelonious Monk to, um, you know, and anybody like kind of at the top of the jazz game. They play. It's a small club in New York, I want to say it fits like maybe 40, 50 people. And but you get to play there like 5 nights straight for 2 sets.
Mhm.
And yeah, if you just look up like live at the Village Vanguard, there's so many legendary records that were recorded there. So yeah, I think it would be a cool moment to go and play there and maybe record a live record there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Hmm.
And so, well, thank you, Paul, so much for coming on. Those are all the questions I had for you today, but I feel like I learned a lot. I had a great time talking to you and hearing about all these experiences. So, yeah,
Yeah,
if
great
there's
question.
anything, yeah, thank you. If you're listening to this, stay tuned for Paul's jazz album coming this summer on Blue Note Records. But beyond that, if there's anything else you want to promote or anything like that, just feel free to do it now.
Uh, I don't know when this is coming out, but yeah, I'm doing some shows coming up. One in Seattle on February the 22nd, and then
Mhm.
one after that is in Eugene, Oregon on the 23rd. And then stay tuned for more shows being
Yeah,
announced. So
yeah. Definitely shows on the way or maybe happening soon. So I'll leave a link to some of that down below. And thank you again so much for coming on.
thank you for having me.